But somewhere along the line, we got it into our silly little heads that because we shouldn't discriminate based on race and gender, that means we shouldn't discriminate based on anything. So we rightly did away with racial and gender discrimination at the polls. We ran way too far in the other direction, and then we did away with all forms of discrimination at the polls. And I think that's where we went wrong. We went way to the other end of way to the other extreme, way too far. I think it's very clear that voting should be a discriminating process. And you absolutely should be subjected to some forms of discrimination when you go to vote. In fact, you're already subjected to some forms of discrimination at the polls that most people agree should be there. Think about age discrimination. Now, there are some people who want to lower the voting age, which I think is a very stupid idea. But you rarely hear anyone say that we should just get rid of the voting age and anyone of any age should vote. Like, let's have 8-year-olds vote. Almost everyone agrees that 8-year-olds should not vote. Now, why? Why do we all agree that an 8-year-old shouldn't vote? What's the reason for that? Well, the reason is that 8-year-olds don't know anything, and they are not in any way whatsoever contributing to society. They are entirely dependent on their parents. So let their parents vote, but not them. So it's interesting. We all agree. For that reason, that's the reason that 8-year-olds shouldn't vote. But then we have to ask ourselves, are there in America a significant number of people who essentially have the maturity and intelligence of 8-year-olds and who are about as self-sufficient and who contribute as much to society as 8-year-olds? And if those people exist, should we allow them to vote? And if we do allow them to vote, on what basis do we stop 8-year-olds from voting when they're basically the same? Now, remember something. Our politicians, you'll never hear a politician say what I'm saying right now, for obvious reasons, probably political suicide, but also politicians for the most part, especially the bad politicians, they really love it when a lot of people vote. They want to get those numbers up. They want to drive people to the polls, right? Why is that? Because they know that the majority, I should say, informed, intelligent, mature voters are in the minority. And those are the scary ones to the politicians, especially the bad politicians. The bad politicians, if you are an informed, mature, intelligent voter, the bad politicians especially are afraid of you and they hate you. And they would love it if they could stop you from voting, but they can't. So instead, their plan is, we're going to take your vote and we're going to drown it in a sea of stupidity. We're going to cancel it out by having a bunch of ignoramuses vote so that your vote no longer matters. That's why they like having high voter turnout. And that's why they're afraid of low voter turnout. Because when they know that when the voter turnout is low, that means that it's going to predominantly be the really invested and interested people who voted.